We call it people technology.
インテル入ってる。
Well, Kolkata Knight Riders 133 for 9. That is how they finished in 20 overs. Second lowest score batting first at the Wankhede Stadium this season in the IPL. Punjab managed just 106. That didn't prove to be enough. And we look back at that innings and where it went wrong for KKR on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by Intel. Dale, Steyn and Ajit Agarkar still with me. I love it when we've got two bowlers who are going to go hard now at batters and see why a batting display was as disappointing as it was. Dale, you can have first crack.
I just absolutely, I love it. To be honest with you, I mean, this wicket, we actually will tell how good this wicket is once Delhi's had a bat. Delhi, Rajasthan's had a bat.
Sure.
I don't think it's the 200, the normal Wankhede 200 kind of pitch, but I do think that KKR just got it horribly wrong tonight, again, unfortunately, and they've ended probably between 40 and 50 runs short of what should be, a total. Who am I? I'm not there playing right now, but I think 133 is just, that's not going to win you a lot of cricket games, especially at Wankhede, regardless of how bad it might be. At the end of the day, that's not going to be enough.
All right, so you're saying that this could be one of those games where the surface is not your 200. Or Ajit, do you get that impression?
Yeah, agree 100%. I think till both teams are batted and bowled on that, we won't know. But there was certainly more grip on that surface. It may not be a 200 one, but they should have got more runs on that. Again, we spoke about what KKR aren't doing right. The decision making isn't great. There's so many things that they could have done a bit differently in that batting, plus the form of some other top order batsmen, keeping Russell for 7 as always. So, but it's certainly not a 200 player. It doesn't seem that way. We'll have to wait and see when KKR bowl. You might just see Rajasthan getting those in 15 overs for all you know. But there is certainly something in that pitch where batting isn't as easy as it normally is at Wankhede.
Yeah, we did see that game in the middle where Delhi got 140 odd and Rajasthan chased it at the last overs. We have seen this as these games come thick and fast at one venue in this year's IPL. But let's talk about the things that KKR didn't do right. Ajit says there were several questions on decisions taken under Russell at 7. Dale, what for you was the most striking out thing that they got wrong in this innings?
Well, they just never got any rhythm going. They just weren't able to kind of get a score ticking on. But and allowed Rajasthan to just let the guys bowl. The guys just ran in. They didn't do anything really smart, really. They just ran in, they just bowled steady lengths, and they didn't upset the pattern of play. But the strange thing is, the moment you send in a big hitter like Russell, immediately you can see how the young left arm quick Sakar, I can't pronounce his name correctly. Sakaria. You can see immediately, as soon as Russell came in, how the game plan started to change. He started to bowl wide. It was wide, and he was worried about getting hit for 6. Now, if Russell had come in earlier, and that kind of bowling upset the plans of the way Rajasthan were going, that could have been the difference between them scoring an extra 20 or 30 runs. And up to that point, they just let Rajasthan run in and kind of do what they wanted to do. They bowled well. I'm going to give it to them. They did bowl really well. But KKR never really upset the momentum of the game at all with their batting tonight.
Yeah, let's talk about Russell and what the opportunity was to get him in. Rana fell in the 9th over, Sunil Narayan in the 10th over, and you have Owen Morgan falling in the 11th over. Now, at what stage would you have liked to see Russell in? Dale, you can go first, and I'll carry on from Ajit. Where would you have liked to see Russell in?
I think, unfortunately, they did the smart thing. They sent Narayan in to try and have a slog. It didn't come off. We said that before the game. He can face 10 balls and score 40, or he could get out after facing 5 or 6. He didn't waste many. He got out, and that was it. Morgan went in and got run out, and that's where the change was right there. That's when they needed to make a decision right there. Do you send in Russell and allow him to bat for a lengthy period of time and change the pattern of the play, or do you wait one more wicket? They waited one more wicket, and Rajasthan were allowed again to just kind of tinker on for another 4 or 5 overs. It got really deep into the innings, and when Russell goes out there and he's only got 4 or 3 overs to create that damage that you're hoping for him, it's a bit too much. So I think maybe when Morgan went out, they should have just gambled and said, all right, we're gambling again. We're going to send in our proper hitter. He's scored runs in the last game. He's feeling confident. Let's get him out there.
Ajit?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a hangover from the last game, isn't it? When they went 30 for 5. Today they decided they're not going to be too adventurous at the start. Again, like Mumbai, but Mumbai at least last night were playing on a tougher pitch in Chennai, so they approached it differently. Here, maybe not a 200 pitch, but still a good pitch. So they went away from the natural sort of. Perhaps they might be able to tell us whether it was intentional or maybe the pitch dictated that. We'll have to wait when KKR bowl, but they certainly seem to change their approach, both Shubman Gill and Nitish Rana. And then it sort of carried on through that innings. I mean, Sunil Narayan walking in that point was because they were slow. They were hoping that he gives them a little bit of a cameo, a little bit more momentum. You've got to question what Morgan's role is in the team. You know, whether he's a number 4 batsman, whether he's a finisher. Because at the moment, okay, today he was unlucky. He's short of runs, and you don't quite understand why a left-hander won't, of his experience, won't walk out before Narayan at that stage. So if he's not going to be one of your main batters, then you may as well let Karthik and Andre Russell walk in before you once Narayan gets out. So they didn't quite know after the start that they had how weren't quite sure how to approach that inning. Plus the pitch, there is certainly some grip in it, which made life a lot more difficult. But we'll see with that 130 odd is certainly a lot short than what they would have liked. Whether it's only the pitch or it's their approach, I think the second innings will tell us more clearly.
Okay, I'm going to get to the Morgan point in just a moment because it seems like he's having no luck of it at all. But it's been a disappointing season for Owen Morgan. But the Narayan point's an interesting one, Dale. When Narayan's been used as a batsman, his usefulness has been in the power play because he hits a lot of balls in the air that don't necessarily go for 6, but he gets you boundaries away. He's never been the kind that's always going to clear the ropes. To send him in around the 8th, 9th over is again. Do you find merit in that decision, given that he tends to hold out often?
No, I think they kind of took a gamble there and tried to go with him to say, listen, go out there and go for it. Let's see. Hopefully you can hit a cameo. But it's not going to work outside of the power play for them. You're right in saying that when he opens the batting, he does hit the ball in awkward areas. When he clears the infield and he hits it along the carpet, especially in a ground like Kolkata, the ball just races away for 4, and it's a small ground too. He hits a lot of 6s. At another ground, Wankiri too, it can happen inside the first 6. Outside of the 6, it's not easy for a slogger. A good batsman, different story. They're going to be able to hit a boundary every other ball. But if you're trying to hit a boundary every single ball the same way Narayan bats, outside of the 6, it's going to be extremely difficult. So maybe the next game they might actually open with him. But sending him in at 3 outside of the 6 is probably also not a good decision. Morgan, he's your captain. He's one of your in batters. Although he hasn't scored any runs, you've got to give him the opportunity to go bat. He's got to go and bat. He hasn't scored many runs. It's a great opportunity for him to go out there, take a bit of time, get going. So Wankiri, this is where you score a lot of runs. They got it again wrong tonight.
So the other thing, Raunak, I feel with this Sunil Narayan thing is last year they promoted him in the middle of the innings. He got a 50, played really well. I think it was in Abu Dhabi. But there were a lot of spinners at that point operating. Today's attack, if you look, apart from Tewatia, everyone's a medium pacer or a seamer. And then it becomes doubly difficult when the field's open to clear seam bowlers than when it is in the power play. So you kind of understand why they're hoping that he comes off, and even if he gets a 20, that might give them a little bit of momentum. But perhaps wasn't the right time to send him tonight.
Yeah, all right. Perhaps an error in judgment from Kolkata. Speak of role clarity, Ajit makes the point. Morgan needs to know his role. We say that T20 batsmen need to be flexible, Dale, but do even experienced batters like Morgan, we speak of Maxwell, do they enjoy some role clarity, some consistency about what they're expected to do as a batsman?
Definitely. Everybody kind of wants to know where they fit in and how they're gonna fit in. And I think tonight, Shane, you got to feel for Morgs. Like he's had a string of bad scores so far, and tonight he didn't even get a ball. So we're gonna judge him on the fact that he didn't score any runs tonight, purely because his team also didn't score any runs. But that's the nature of the beast, but I'm sure he does. He will have a good relationship with Baz. They would have spoken about what kind of role he's going to play. But yeah, it's just not working for them. Apart from the first game where they made some amazing strategy calls and everyone showed up, since then they've made some strategy calls and they haven't worked out for them. So it happens sometimes, you know.
Yeah, Dale makes a fair point. They went through all of last season, Ajit. We discussed it many times with some odd, almost weird tactical calls. It was a surprise to see them almost get things as efficiently as they did in the first game. Since then, it seems like a lot of change. Do you understand these sorts of changes? Can they disrupt? Can they confuse the team themselves?
Yeah, I mean there are experienced lot. It's not one of those teams where there are lots of youngsters. Like if you look at Rajasthan, sometimes you look at some of the other teams. There are a lot of these inexperienced guys in the middle, but these are all experienced guys. So they should be able to adjust to the changes. It's never easy when you are not assigned a role on a regular basis, but they're experienced guys and quality players. So you'd expect them to adjust. It's just sometimes you can overthink. I mean, that the game against RCB is a classic example. uh, Chakravarti gets 2 wickets in his first over and then is stopped for some reason. Just Harbhajan
Yeah.
Singh bowls the 19th over. So those sorts of calls, perhaps, sometimes you need to keep it simple. And there's so much quality in that team that if they keep it simple, might actually work for them.
All right, now 134. That's a different kind of attack. KKR tend to attack with spin. They've got Chakravarti, they've got Sunil Narayan. Is this going to be as straightforward as we think, Ajit, or given what we've said of the pitch, may not be as easy?
I mean, if Rajasthan will be very disappointed if they don't get that score, whether it's in a last ball of the 20th over or in the 12th over. We'll just have to
Yeah.
wait and see. They've themselves not been in great form, but this is a great opportunity. I mean, having won the toss, they would have expected to chase around at least around 160, 170 at the lowest. This is a real gimme. I mean, even if the wicket is tough, it's not going to be a Chennai. There might be a little bit of grip on it, but now they have a clear target in mind. And what is it? That's just over 7 runs and over, or not even, no, just over 6 runs and over at this point, 6.5. I mean, if you don't get that, then you don't deserve to win.
Okay, this is a funky team, Dale, Ajit. 134 is what they've got to defend. You've got Narayan, you've got Varun Chakravarti, you've got Pat Cummins. They're starting with Shivam Mavi. Dale?
Yeah, it's one of those totals that you should get.
Yeah.
And you should try and bat well for the first 10 overs. That's for sure. If you bat well in the first 10 overs, like Ajit said, you can score it. You'll probably win in the 15th or 16th over. But yeah, I mean, we've got guys in the Rajasthan team that are also lacking a bit of form right now.
Yeah.
Butler hasn't scored any runs. Sanju scored some runs in the first one, I think, and then since then hasn't scored any runs. We get to that middle order and we've got Parag. Miller's also coming off a duck.
Yeah.
The guys, they want to see other people knock these runs off because it's not a big total. They don't want the pressure on themselves tonight. That's how I've seen it in past teams before. A low total like this, you just kind of go, I really don't want to go out there and have to win the game for us tonight. It's a low total. You guys must do it. So they'll be under a little bit of pressure, but I think it's a total that if they don't get, then I don't know. Then I'm going to hang up my boots. Then I can't play anymore.
Maybe Mavi will get Butler out, but would you have started with him, Ajit?
No, clearly not. I mean, it's again one of the decisions. Like that's the thing. It may work, but it's not the right decision. And there've been too many of those for KKR this season already, and they've not even reached the halfway stage. So eventually, those decisions catch up with you. I mean, you might say it's out of the box, but I don't understand because they've got some world-class bowlers in that lineup. And I'm not saying Mavi's a bad bowler, but someone who's playing his first game, why won't you go to your, Pat Cummins at the moment is number one in the world, or a Sunil Narayan who's been one of the best T20 bowlers ever. Or Chakravarti who's been so good. Yeah, baffles me really, and there've been too many of those decisions.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sort of have a go at Mavi here, obviously, Dale, but what do the other bowlers think? You're an overseas experienced bowler, like you've been in those situations. You're a Pat Cummins, you're a Sunil Narayan. Your only chance of actually defending this, you get a couple of wickets early or maybe have a quiet 1 or 2 overs. If they get to 15, 16 in the first over chasing 130, you think shoulders tend to drop. These are the sort of things that can happen.
Yeah, and like Ajit said, there's been a lot of out-of-the-box thinking from Kolkata, and it just hasn't worked out for them, Like let's keep it simple. You know, you've got guys in your team that are world-class players with a new ball. Pat Cummins is probably one of the best in the world with a new ball. I mean, they're paying huge money for this guy to do that job. You know, let's not think too far ahead. Let's keep it simple. You've got a low score here. You don't have to think out of the box. Smart cricket can also win you cricket games, but you know, we've seen a lot of these things from KK. Maybe it comes off in the second innings. Hasn't come off in the last couple games for them though.
Yep. All right. Fair enough. Like Ajit says, maybe it'll work, but it still questions the decision itself. Mavi started well for what it's worth. So let's see if this is going to be hard work for Rajasthan. Pick up the chat with Dale Steyn and Ajit Agarkar at the end of the game. And before we head off, remember the Intel Fastest Fan First contest is still very much up and running. So head over to the ESPN Cricket Info Facebook page if you fancy yourselves winning some nice prizes by just answering a few questions. Right, big one this. The winner will catch up with another few teams on the points table. The loser will be foot rocked to the bottom of the table. So we'll see how things go after the 20 overs or less that Rajasthan need to knock these off.
We call it people technology.
インテル入ってる